Hi everyone, Jesse here with etrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install the Blue Ox custom fit base plate on our 2016 Jeep Patriot. There's 5 main components to look into when setting up your vehicle to be flat towed, starting with our base plate. That's going to be your structural mounting component, which connects through the second main component, which is the tow bar. This is the physical link between motorhome and towed vehicle. Then we have our braking system. The braking system is what allows you to come to a safe stop by not only relying on the motorhome's brakes, but also using the towed vehicle's brakes to make that stop. Then we have our diode wiring. The diode wiring will keep you safe and legal out there by sending a signal from the motorhome to the back of the towed vehicle to allow the tail lights to function properly. And that means turn signals, your tail lights, and your brake lights. And last, we have our safety cables. These are here in case of a catastrophic disconnect. In case anything comes disconnected, these will be here to help you come to a safe stop on the side of the road. Here's what it looks like with everything hooked up. It comes with these removable arms here, and you can use this with almost any tow bar. We're using a Blue Ox tow bar, but with adapters, you can use other brands. Then we have some nice safety cable loops right here, kind of poking under your license plate. And the base plate also comes with a mounting location for your 6-pole wiring. Unhooking everything is a pretty simple process. You'll of course disconnect your wiring and your breakaway switch, take off your safety cable, and slide your pin out. We actually have a locking pin here, but most of them will just have a clip that you would unclip. We'll drop our tow bar out of the way. So now this is what it would look like if you're driving around, but you can get an even cleaner look by removing your arm. Just pull the pin out, quarter turn, and it slides out. I really like the way this base plate mounts with this bumper, just because everything's almost completely hidden under it, unless you know what you're looking for. And the kit also comes with a rubber cap to keep any rust or corrosion out of there. And getting it hooked back up is just as easy as disconnecting it. And really that's all there is to it. The base plate is just your structural mounting point for all of your other components. As for the installation process, it is a pretty difficult installation. You have to remove this fascia piece here, and then you have to do quite a bit of notching out of the bumper beam behind it, and then you have to drill 10 holes and install 10 handle nuts. So I'd understand if that's not something that you're looking to do yourself. Just feel free to check out our dealer locator to find somebody local to you that's willing to help you install this. If you are looking to see how this gets installed, then just follow along and I'll walk you through the process. Also, if you've installed this before and you just want to share some tips or tricks with us, please feel free to leave a review or a comment. We'll begin our installation under the hood. We're going to start taking off some of this hardware on top of our fascia here. On each corner there will be a 10mm bolt. Get those off. Then these smaller bolts along the inside are going to be a T20 Torx. We'll just work our way down the line with those. Now in our wheel well here, we'll have some 7mm bolts to remove. Now we need to peel this wheel well liner back. It is hard plastic, so you might want to be careful. You can see ours is actually already broken from a previous repair, but it helps to have a pry tool like this to kind of dig in there enough to get your hands in there. And then we have a 7mm bolt to remove right there. Now on both sides we'll have 2 push pin fasteners to remove. Helps to have a tool like this. We're just going to try to work the center section of it out. And once you have the center section popped out a bit, the entire clip should come out. And once you have all of those out, there should be 2 clips along the bottom here. Ours are actually missing already, but if yours are still installed, then I'd just come in with a that same tool, pry out, and that should disconnect them. For this step, it's a good idea to have an extra set of hands. I have my longtime pal Daniel here to help me out, but we're just going to start by pulling from the outside kind of shimmying it. There should just be clips holding it in. So once you get your turn signals on both sides released, you'll have to unplug them from the back. So you want to release the red tab by pulling it back, then push on the tab just past it and pull it out. And then we have one more plug holding our fog lights in. Just push on the tab and separate the plugs. Now we'll set our fascia aside. Now that the fascia's off, we need to get some stuff out of our way. We'll start with this black module. There's going to be two 13mm nuts holding the bracket on. This first one's kind of tight, helps to have a wobble socket like this. Take that off. And then the second one's down here in the bottom. Just kind of get that pushed out of the way. The next thing we'll take off is our horn right here. There will be a 10mm nut right here. We'll just keep these off to the side so that we can move them as we're working. On the passenger side, we have these coolant hoses that are going to be in our way. So we'll just take these off of their holder. Just got to push in on that and pull it out. Again on this side. Pop that out of those clips. And then this hose here is flexible, so that way we can move it around as we're working here. Now we need to cut a notch in our bumper here, so make sure that any wiring's out of the way. This ambient air sensor was just up there, so I just use my pry tool to pop it out and hang it out of our way. I'm going to start the cut with an angle grinder, and then I'll most likely move on to a multi-tool just because it's in a tight spot. My angle grinder won't quite fit. Once you get it mostly cut out, you should be able to just give it a few taps with a hammer. Try to wiggle it back and forth just to break that last part off. This is 2 layers of metal, so it is pretty hard to cut through. So once we have the outside notched out, we'll also have to notch 2 inches on the inside of our bumper beam to make clearance for our base plate. I started it with an angle grinder, then I'll come through with my multi-tool and cut it out, and then I'll bend it back and forth until it breaks, just like we did on the other one. Now we need to drill an access hole to get all of our hardware in once the base plate is up in place. So right top left of this hole that's already here, I'm going to punch it. Then I'm going to come in with a small drill bit and drill a pilot hole. Then we'll come back through with a 1.25" hole saw to get enough room to slip our hardware into place. So we already got the base plate kind of halfway into place. It's a pretty tricky process. You have to start at a downward angle to get up above this stud here, at least on the driver's side. Over on the passenger side, you just have to be wary of this condenser line here for your AC. You can slightly bend it to get it a little bit out of your way, but even then, it's in the way. A couple nicks or scratches here and there is fine, but just be wary of it while you're doing it. But now that we have it here, I'm just going to try to level everything out. I'll have to use a dead blow because it is a tight fit, but I'll just go from one side to the other, trying to get this as level as possible. For the most part, it'll hold itself in place, but I apparently found a loose spot over here, so we're going to use clamps, just hold everything into place, or at least hold it onto the vehicle, and we'll get it leveled out, then clamp it down nice and tight so we can drill our holes. Once you get your base plate in place and level, make sure you clamp it down nice and tight. And we're going to start drilling out our holes. We're going to start on this rear hole. Once I have it drilled out, I'll install some hardware to hold everything in place even better. But we're drilling it out with a 13/32 drill bit. We'll start with our handle nut. You'll just want to put it through your access hole, make some bends in it until you can get it lined up. We'll insert it down in there. And for this back hole, we'll be using our shorter bolts. Any of the bolts that don't have space in them, you'll see on the other side of the base plate, it'll actually have spacers in between the base plate and the frame of the vehicle already welded on. Looks like every hole but this one here on this side, we can use our short bolts, and they actually include a spacer block to insert in there. So for that hole, we'll use a spacer block and our long bolt. Before we install our hardware, we'll just go over it real quick. Every bolt will get a split washer, and we'll also want to put a dab of red thread locker on it before we get it threaded in. But as I said before, we'll start with this back bolt, get it threaded on and tighten and torque it, and then we'll start drilling the rest of our holes. We'll tighten it down with a 14mm socket and then come back over it with a torque wrench to torque it down to the specifications in the instructions. Alright, so I'll just be honest, doing these handle nuts is not very easy. It's pretty time consuming just to get each one started. You just have to be patient with it, but I'll just show you kind of the access holes that we used. For these two, we used this access hole that we drilled. For this one here, we actually went through the back, made a 90, and then flattened it out. It's going to be tough to see, but there's a hole back behind our base plate here. That seemed to be the easiest route to that one. And then this one, this top front one, we actually went through the hole, the notch that we cut out of our bumper. And then for this bottom one, we went through this hole on the bottom here, put a 90-degree turn in it to get it right to here. But at this point, we can torque everything down. Once you have all of them torqued, we can break our handles off. Sometimes you can just wiggle them off. If you're having issues with that, you can just cut them and try to bend it back out of the way. Now we'll need to install our safety cables. What we'll want to do is just wrap them around the frame. I actually did 2 wraps just because we had a little bit of slack. And then connect it to the hanger here with your quick links. Did it on both sides. But now with our fascia still off, it's a good idea to do any other flat toe components that you may need to install, for example, diode wiring or braking system. And then we should just have to reinstall the fascia opposite of how we took it off. If we have to do any trimming, I'll come back and show you what we did. So I did have to do a bit of cutting, and I already installed the fascia just because I was trying to make sure everything fit properly. But essentially there's 2 arms on each side here that I cut out to make our safety cable loops fit. And then I did have to trim out the surround of your fog light here just to make it make the fascia push all the way in. And that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Blue Ox base plate on our 2016 Jeep Patriot.